Hello, hello, hello. I can never tell when these are exactly starting to stream, but I believe it's streaming now. Hello, it's me. It's Jason Louvre. Hi, how are you? So, it's Friday. I'm just going to wait for everyone to begin to come in here. And hopefully, if you're on here, you can let me know how the video and sound are. I'm a little worried the compressor is up too loud. Okay, there, better. Okay, let's see. Are we streaming? Okay, we're streaming. Okay, great. All right, as I get used to this, I will have better intros. So it's Friday, and because I stay up late, I woke up late. What's up, Twig City? How's it going? Because I stay up late, I woke up late at like 2, and my brain still doesn't work no matter how much coffee I drink. So I'm sure you know the feeling. So I'm kind of doing this thing where I'm staring at the computer. I'm like, okay, I have so much to do, but da, 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 da. So I figured I would jump up on a stream, and hopefully at least my voice works as long in addition to my brain in a stream way. Compressor sounds fine. Okay, great. So no big topic for this stream, but I do want to catch up on some current events. The most important one is what's up, everyone. The most important one is the Bibas family in Israel. It is utterly, a level of barbarism that is basically just black and white. I'm not going to say it's unprecedented because it's not. Children have a bad time of it in our current world. But the savagery of it is unmistakable. I think if anyone is continuing to defend that, I don't know what to say to you. Just as a quick recap, the Bibas family were a father. I actually don't remember what happened with the father, but the mother and 2 babies were kidnapped by Hamas. They have now shown that within a month, Hamas murdered them, the babies, by hand, with their bare hands. The bodies have been returned in coffins that made them look like adults. The mother was returned, but it turned out not to be the mother. It turned out to be an unidentified body that wasn't even a hostage. And so, I'm not going to like riff on this or comment on it this is the mourning in Israel right now and in the Jewish world across the world must be profound. And nobody needs to hear my comments on it other than I support Israel. I'm very, very sorry that this is happening. And I would simply hope that people look at this and start to, like, let me just point one thing out about this. I'll point one thing, okay? I'll put one little snide comment in. These people like Candace Owens and Jackson Hinkle and Andrew Tate and all of these people who've been going around saying there were no dead babies. No babies were murdered by Hamas. Well, here you go. Here are 2 babies that were literally murdered by Hamas. So this is terrorism. It's savagery. It's barbarism. It's inhuman, and it must be met with force first and then denazification policies ongoing into the future. And I will say that, unfortunately, as we saw in New Orleans most recently, this is the type of thing that is not going to be constrained to Israel. It's happening all over the world. It happens all the time in Africa and various parts of the Middle East and Indonesia. And people don't talk about it because, it doesn't make the news. So, like I said, nobody needs to hear my commentary on this other than it's very, 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 very sad. And if it doesn't make clear where the lines are on this one, I think you should look closer. Okay. Let's see. What else is there to catch up on in news? Oh, man. I pointed out the very obvious truth on Instagram that, yes, Alex, it was a summer moment. It's all good, though. Thank you, everyone, for saying it looks good. No problem. So, yeah, I pointed out on Instagram the obvious truth that clearly sleazy from Throbbing Gristle and Coil. Peter Christopherson is clearly a pedophile, and as far as John Balance, we don't know, but was a long-term partner of a pedophile. So you make your own conclusions. those two guys were not secret about that. You can go look at the Love Secret Domain video from Coil, which is John Balance on stage dancing with a bunch of underage shirtless boys in their underwear. Or you can go look at Sleazy's later work, like the Threshold Houseboys Choir. Those two made no secret about their interest in teenage and potentially younger boys. They were very open about it. But of course, me pointing it out, I'm the devil yet again, when I simply tell people reality, like I did about the Reichians. And now it's like everyone knew this about Peter Christopherson. It's obvious. His name was Sleazy. But for some reason, it was fine. Everyone was fine with it. So anyways, I posted that. People lost their fucking minds on I probably can't even say some of these words on YouTube. People lost their minds on Instagram. And once again, Jason is the bad guy. Once again, Jason, for just saying the obvious truth, is, getting involved in the culture war, is a disappointment, should be above politics, magic should be above politics. How that relates to Peter Christopherson, I don't know. But all the usual nonsense from the chuckleheads. And I understand. Look, I get it, okay? Like, I like Coil too. It sucks when you find out that things you invested large parts of your life in are not what they seem. That sucks. It's lost time. It makes you feel bad when you realize, I've listened to a lot of Coil, right? And for some reason, it's just like, it didn't register to me fully. Well, that's not okay. Now I'm in my 40s, right? Life looks a lot different in your 40s when you actually take on adult responsibilities. Hopefully. Same with Reich. I did years of Reichian therapy. I've written articles about Wilhelm Reich. I promoted Wilhelm Reich. You think I feel good about finding out what I found out? Absolutely not. But the truth is the truth. The truth is the truth is the truth, and that's it. And the truth is bigger than my ego. It's bigger than my sense of cultivated personality or image or something like that, as if that means anything. The truth is the truth. And of course, somebody pointed out on Instagram, these, Coil, they've been dead since the mid-2000s. Why do we have to dig this up? Okay, look, first of all, I don't understand this argument at all. Second, it's about what we tolerate now. It's about standards now. What is acceptable? From whatever bizarre string of coincidences and decisions, I found myself in a leadership position in this, whatever you want to call this, a culture, community, whatever this is. So it's important to establish what the standards are. And as a community, we have, I think at the very least, let's say no P-ilia. I can't actually say this word on YouTube. I have to re-educate myself. Leave the children alone. Leave the children out of it. You want to murder children in Israel? No. You want to listen to pedophilia chic? Look, how long has pedophilia chic been part of a culture? Let's just look at that. John Wayne Gacy, the obsession with John Wayne Gacy in the 80s and 90s, with people like Johnny Depp collecting John Wayne Gacy art. What? Why is that cool? The thing about the occult world is that I have struggled with my entire life is at the very bottom of in the core of the occult, there are the techniques for the liberation of human consciousness. Oh, PDF file. Okay, thank you. That's a good tip. I'll say that. No PDF files. No Adobe Acrobats. At the core of the occult world are the techniques for the liberation of human consciousness. For what do I mean by that? Let's be specific, okay? Meditation, advanced meditation practices, pranayama, philosophy, including esoteric philosophy, techniques for just even core techniques for life, like goal setting, like positive thinking, like the type of stuff that Mitch Horowitz teaches, that stuff has the capacity to change somebody's life within a very, very, very short period of time. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer, Alex. Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer was super chic for a long time. I think that Dahmer documentary was from one of his somebody he went to high school with wrote a story about him or something like that. But yeah, serial killer chic, big part of the 90s, big part of industrial culture. You know, I had a hilarious exchange with a guy named Senya Kenfei, who's an artist from, I don't know where he is now, but at the time he was in LA, where he made this he's from Ethiopian background, where he made this comment where he said that like all white boys go through a serial killer obsession phase. It's so funny, so funny. I can't disagree with that. But anyways, at the core of the occult, you have the tools for the liberation of human consciousness within a very short period of time. And I mean, one of the things that I do, you know, I get email from people telling me this. I want people to be able to pick up, to watch one of my YouTubes or pick one of my books up in a horrible situation and change their life 180 degrees. It's possible. It's very possible. It's more possible, by the way, than people would make you believe, because people want to sell you very complex self-help packages. It's not that hard. It requires focused will. And the occult gives you the tools to focus your will, because it's all good and well for somebody to say these truisms like be yourself or focus on your goals or control your mind. That's all well and good, but if somebody doesn't give you the actual tools to do that, then they're just going to frustrate you, because you're going to try and figure it out and it's not going to work, and then you're going to feel bad about yourself. You need to have the actual tools, and you have to have someone to show you how to do it. So now you understand how to drive, and you can drive yourself. So I wouldn't have dedicated my life to this if it wasn't that important. Again, the tools for the liberation of humanity are at the core of the occult. But of course, on top of that, you have all kinds of other shit that is completely unrelated. The entire occulture, there's lots of cool stuff in it, but it has nothing to do with the occult. I'm sorry. It's all about subculture signifiers. It has nothing to do with the techniques of magic. And let me pose this to you. You go to some conference of occult stuff, and everyone's running around in black clothes and talking about coil and doing suspensions and Lucifer, blah, 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 blah. What does that have to do with how well you can meditate? What does that have to do with how long you can meditate and how long you can hold single-pointed focus? Nothing. It has nothing to do with it, because it's not related. It's a smokescreen, and it's a camouflage, and it's of dubious value. Maybe it was useful at some point for strength in numbers to hide people, but it's old. It's old, and it's tiresome, and nothing new has happened in it. And it is a shame when some of the best things to come out of it, like Coil, who are incredibly accomplished artistically and musically, turn out to be really bad. So there's kind of this deal in a culture where there's this tacit agreement that there are no rules except don't be judgmental. On the left in general, and in a culture in specific, the idea is as long as you're not judgmental of somebody for their path or something about their identity, then you're a good person. That's not good. Again, what does that have to do? Whether you're judgmental or not, what does that have to do with your understanding of morals, ethics, the society you want to create for the future, the society you want for your children and your people that you know's children? What does that have to do with any of that? Nothing. Nothing. It's irrelevant. It is utterly irrelevant. And more than irrelevant, it's dangerous, because when you have an occult world, when you have a world that's built on secrecy and secret groups and groups within groups and all of this, and Satan and all of this stuff designed to scare people's parents, you're going to attract people who are attracted to that. And among many other types of people, you get people who are looking for vulnerable young people who are separated from their wider support networks and who can be mystified with this smokescreen one of the most pernicious things in the occult is the idea that people can be of higher grade and superior to other people. And you see that being abused quite a bit. For instance, allegedly, at least at one point in the OTO, I don't know how it is now. Hopefully it's not this way now, but at least at one point, all members of fifth degree or higher were expected to be sexually available to their higher ups whenever they wanted. I hope it's not that way anymore, because that's institutionalized rape. So, long way of saying, too long didn't read. It sucks when we find the things that we put time into are loathsome, but it's part of life. And I would suggest that when you have the moment of realization, when you see how another very questionable person, how General Milley heard you a Zionist, unsubscribed. Hopefully that's a joke. If it is, it's funny. I am a Zionist. Deal with it. William Burroughs deleted. Okay, well, I hope it's a joke. It was deleted by moderation. So, as William Burroughs said, the naked lunch. When you see what you have on the other side of your fork. Well, Burroughs was very suspicious as well. But when you have that moment of naked lunch, when you realize what it is that you've been eating, I suspect you will be judged by how you react in that moment. Yes, you can look back and say, for instance, like Coyle, like nobody didn't see this coming. They made it obvious. They made it more obvious than anyone else. So, but when you have the moment of recognition, of self-recognition, of like, wait, hang on a second, this is not okay. I suspect that the moral imperative, the important thing there is what you do in that moment. Do you continue with it? And it's the same with when you realize negative behavioral patterns in your own self. Let's just make it simpler. When you realize you've been doing something that's been hurting people, what do? Do you double down and gaslight them, or do you stop the behavior? The correct response is, of course, to stop the behavior. So, long story short, don't get mad at me for telling you the truth. They themselves told you. Get mad at them. They told you what they were up to. I'm just repeating what they're saying. Go look at Love Secret Domain video, Threshold Houseboys Choir, etc., etc. Come on. People are coming at me with like, this is the woke cancel culture. It's like they themselves were saying that. All right. Let's catch up on comments. So that's the news for this week. And let's just have a nice back and forth with people. And I'm open for questions. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on the stream. I'm just kind of waiting for my brain to kick in before I do some work. So I will field questions if anyone wants to react to that, or if there's other news events this week that you want me to comment on. Let me know. Matt says season of reveal. Yeah. So Slim Jim says, let's open this up for conversation because I'm actually curious what people think about this. Slim Jim says it's okay to admire someone's work even if they did bad things, in my opinion. Okay. I'm down with that. That's obviously the way you can eat your cake and have it too. Right? And one would hope that that was true. In practice, I find it pretty hard to disentangle those things. Maybe other people are better at that, but I find it pretty hard to disentangle those things. So if other people have ideas on that, let me know. Yeah, Netflix made a Dahmer pop icon. Yeah, it was really, he was a huge in the 90s. Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy. That's what that movie Natural Born Killers was commenting on. Wingsbound says Damien Echols guided meditation on YouTube really helped me customize my own design in many ways. Awesome. Yeah, Damien does good work. Damien, by the way, a bunch of people dogpiled on Damien and bullied him, including Mom's Basement Marco Visconti, who's a ridiculous individual. And that man, Damien Echols, is a saint and underwent more in prison than probably any of us could ever even conceptualize. And yet, after having been on death row, having had his whole life taken from him, he's out there trying to do good work and teach people magic, and you want to tear this guy down? Go fuck yourselves. Damien Echols has done more for the magical community than 18,000 shithead commenters on YouTube who prop themselves up on their little dunghills, like crowing roosters with their little dunghills of crap built up from old Crowley books and whatnot, and claim themselves the new lord of magic. Go fuck yourselves. Go fuck yourselves. Leave Damien alone. And you know who you are, by the way, and we all see you, and we all see how loathsome you actually are. Okay? All right. Alex says, the old biblical adage of building your house on solid foundation is essential. Yeah, absolutely. Or it will collapse. Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that's pretty good. Okay, Virtual Reality says, I want to ask if you're aware of Dr. Amon Hillman, the classical philologist who's translating ancient Greek Bible and other texts from antiquity. If so, any thoughts? Okay, so this is one of these things where people have been telling me to look at this for like a year, including Damien sent me this and told me to look. I haven't looked at it yet. He wanted to be on my podcast, and I was really squicked out with his whole thing. It really freaked me out, but people keep saying it again and again, so I'm going to have to go look at it. Yeah, Alex says, Amon's Danny Jones podcast where he says Jesus Christ used children as drugs was wild. I don't even know what the F that is or where to begin with that, but people keep talking about it. Wingsbound says lots of edgelords never grow up as well. Yeah, almost all of them never grow up. Anne says, I like Dr. Hillman. I started his Greek class a few months ago. I dislike all the personal attacks on him. So who is this guy exactly? And what are the personal attacks on him? I just know that there was a guy who was saying that there was some weird Jesus drugs thing, but I don't know what the story with that is. People are talking about Dr. Hillman. Ann Henry, battery's about dead. Well, thank you for coming in. Bibas. Yeah. Slim Jim says, yeah, by the way, I know this. You said that statement wasn't advocating for whatever they did. Yeah, no. Totally clear about that. Totally clear. I don't know anything about Coil. I was just saying you can separate the two and see whatever art they made for what it is, whatever it may be. I would hope so. So all I'm saying is, I know that's how you meant it. All I'm saying is I would hope so, but it's kind of hard in practice. Wingsbound says we can learn. Of course, nobody's perfect, and history, as Nietzsche has pointed out, is a slaughter bench. So if you want to learn anything from history, you're going to be dealing with very, very unsavory events, people, thoughts, all this. But it is what it is. Wingsbound says we can learn from difficult people, but association with people can taint our fields a lot, I feel, in regard. Yeah, we will rationalize a lot to get out benefits in life. Yeah, so that's I think the flip side of the equation, where you're saying we can separate the art from the artist. And then Wingsbound says, yes, and we can learn from difficult people, but association with people can taint our fields. I think you mean that metaphysically and esoterically, and I agree with you on that. Even just the energetic principle of it alone, I agree with you. And it also sends a message about who we are and what we're willing to tolerate. We can learn from difficult people, but association with people can taint our fields a lot, I feel, in regard. We will rationalize a lot to get out of benefits in life. Yeah, and that's totally true. People will rationalize it. And then if their rationalization is flimsy and if somebody comes around and pokes at it, they lose their mind, as happened on Instagram this week, because the cognitive dissonance can't survive the obvious, just the obvious truth. It doesn't need to be sneaky. It's just like you just point out the obvious truth and people will lose their minds because their personalities are constructed around avoiding obvious truths. It's not a big trick. I recommend trying it from time to time. So great comment, Slim Jim and Wingsbound. Thank you for presenting, I think, kind of both sides of that argument very well. Josh says, so is it wrong to like acid bath or wear acid bath stuff? I don't know what acid, other than the literal, is that a band? Because they use Gacy and Kevorkian art as albums. I don't know who that is. Josh says, Damien Echols is awesome. He's great. I agree. Quixotic says, I've consumed a ton of Damien's content. He does seem like a real pleasant guy. Yeah, I met Damien once. I did a long podcast with him, which is on this channel, video podcast in person. Damien's great. Totally sweet, genuine individual. I think that meeting Damien, and I'm sure I'm not the only person like this, meeting Damien, the immediate instinct that you have is that you just want to protect him because he's like an innocent in a way. He was kept away from the world, not in other ways, but he was kept in the world, away from the world for decades. So he's pure in many ways. And he's had his problems just like everyone else, serious ones. But that was my immediate impression. My immediate impression of Damien is I like him. He's a sweet guy. I want to protect him, as I'm doing on this stream. People want to pick on Damien? What have you all done? You want to pick on Damien Echols? What the fuck have you done? You taught a fucking thing at Treadwell's? Go fuck yourself. You try getting off of death row and then having the moral strength to try and teach people magic after that, which is an incredibly inherently dangerous thing to do. But you're going to keep doing the great work after you've been on death. I think anyone, including me, after they were on death row for a couple decades, would probably want a break. But he does great work. He does great work. We're lucky to have him. We're lucky to have him. Leave him alone. Okay. Yeah, and anyone who wants to pick on Damien, you're my enemy. Tyler says the heart of a king is unsearchable is a badass verse. Is that from the Bible? That is a cool verse. Alex says we're talking about Dr. Hillman. He's very eccentric, but he's a classicist and philologist making very wild claims about the biblical narrative. His big book is The Chemical Muse. Okay. I'm going to have to look at it just because people keep saying it over and over and over again. Hardy Boy 8 says Damien is amazingly helpful. Yeah. Paul says Echols inspired me to get back into magic when I was in jail. Okay. Now I've been doing Liber Samag for 2 months straight and learning Enochian magic. Awesome. Good stuff. I encourage you. That's great. Yeah, Enochian, by the way, Liber Samag is probably more direct than Enochian, because Enochian will Crowley referred to it as that damnable distraction at some point. But yeah, congratulations. That's great stuff. See, that's the type of stuff that Damien does for people. He actually gets people into magic who need it. Go figure. Outside of sitting on, people sitting on their little dunghills and saying who's cool and who's not, and who's the real OTO and who's not. Who gives a fuck? Get off Facebook. Let's see. Josh says, yes, me too. Damien's an amazing person. Yes. Temple says, when energy is infused with PDF files, it's hard to ignore that vibe. It's gross. Yeah. Alex says, Damien's origin spooks me. If I watch the documentary closely, not going to lie, I start to wonder who I'm following. But after reviewing the West Memphis 3 stuff, but I don't know. I think they got bro on hype. Had to be a stepdad. Yeah, that or the cops. I'll say this too, okay? I went to West Memphis. There's video footage of it on this channel. If you go back and look, just search Damien Echols on my channel. I went to West Memphis just to show solidarity at Damien's. Damien's been trying forever to get DNA testing on his, the stuff that was found at the crime scene. And they won't do it. So let me ask you this. If you were falsely accused of something and you were the one that was constantly pushing for DNA testing, and the state that convicted you and put you on death row refused, how does that look? If they knew he actually did it, why wouldn't they let DNA testing happen? But instead, what they did, instead of just letting DNA testing, you would think that they would be like, okay, we'll let him do a DNA test and it's done. Case closed. All the attention is now off of our county, which is what they don't want, of course, attention on their county and their very, very corrupt system. That doesn't make any sense. Instead, what happened is me and a bunch of other goths, sensitive goths, including the singer from Lamb of God and various other people, just showed up at the courthouse to stand out front. And West Memphis rolled out like 20 dudes in full riot gear, ARs, body armor, everything, full 9, ready for a riot. For what? Like a couple goths with parasols? It's just it's like ridiculous. So, and West Memphis is a terrifying place. You go there, and in order to get there, you have to drive through cornfields that look like they're from Children of the Corn. And it was scary because, Well, first of all, when I was driving towards West Memphis, there was a red sliver moon above it that looked terrifying. I'd never seen anything like that. But we're driving through these cornfields, and first of all, if there weren't like Shell gas stations and recognizable logos of corporations for obvious things, Shell, Denny's, things like that, you could be in the Middle Ages in Europe. Like all the houses are ancient and collapsing. It looks like some medieval village. It's scary. And then, and also it's like, you just get this sense of like, I just had this feeling of driving through these endless corn rows of just like, I just suddenly had this sense of like being like an escaped slave and running through these cornfields while dogs are chasing you. And there's no one for hundreds of miles. Who cares? That's a real fear. I mean, that's what West Memphis was like. And then we get into the town, and I think they have a casino there now. They've tried to kind of revitalize the economy, but man, it's grim. It's grim and evil. So the fact that Damien could come out of that environment is impressive is impressive from the get-go, but to then be thrown into death row. And I don't think, I don't know who's on this call, but that type of suffering, it's hard for most people to fathom. So that's my take on that. Temple says contact with truth is often painful. Yep. Well, that's how you know truth too. If something reinforces your ego, but if something challenges your ego, it's much more likely to be true. JJ Hills, could you talk about Masonic curses? What? Do they exist, and are they cast upon anyone who leaves the fraternity? My Christian fundamentalist family have built their identities upon generational curses. Well, that's a bizarre mindset. No, there's no Masonic curses. I'm a Freemason. There's no curses. I'm 32nd degree Knights Templar, all the way up there, all that. It doesn't exist. But Masonry is an organization that takes good men and makes them better. It's more or less a senior citizens type thing. There's young guys in it, but it's mostly older guys who just need social connection. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing that teaches some very, very good moral lessons that I think particularly young men these days could get a lot out of. But honestly, they don't even talk about the occult in Freemasonry. It's more like you're hanging out with the local used car dealer, that type of thing. Alex says, Ritual and Essential Grimoire is an amazing book. I keep a shortcut on the home screen. Nice. I still haven't read that either. I got so much I need to catch up on. Lucas says, what are everybody's favorite movies on magic? So I want to do a video about this, but I'm definitely curious what people think. My favorite movies on magic, for kitsch value alone, for authenticity and kitsch value alone, it has to be Simon, King of the Witches from the 60s or 70s. Check that out. But there's tons. High Magic, good book. Love for Damien, very good. Desert Dweller says, High Magic is what got me into this stuff. Protect Damien at all costs. Yeah, I agree. High Magic got a lot of people into this stuff, and it's a good book. One of the great things about Damien is it's like I have this tendency where I like over academicize and I get like obsessed with details on things, where Damien it's like, here you go. If you want to get started, here's the stuff. Very good. High Magic is a great book. Alex also likes Damien's book, Ritual. Yeah. Got to pick that up. He keeps saying that he's done with the occult, but I hope he comes back. Josh says, but the reason he said he was done, I think, is because these people were just on his ass. Fuck these people. Josh says, Alex, yeah, can you imagine somebody who was the state tried to murder him. The state tried to murder him, and God knows the shit that he has dealt with in his life. And you want to be some mom's basement loser from Italy who just decides to cancel him over nothing? Give me a break. Get a life. Get a life. Josh says he got railroaded for being into the occult. He freaking got himself out of death row through magic. The guy is one of a kind, in my opinion, and the stuff he knows is insane. Like super amazing work. Yeah, Damien will be remembered in the history of magic for sure. Whether I am, who knows? But Damien definitely will be. I'm very confident about that. His story is so inspiring and unique. And demonstrates the ability of magic in a way that even people who don't believe in magic have to say. I mean, even if you have the most hardcore Richard Dawkins person in the world, that person is still going to grudgingly say something like, well, maybe, obviously magic's not real, but maybe these practices gave him some psychological strength that let him get through that situation. And that's good. That's great. Even they will concede on that point, is the power of Damien's story. And, as far as magic tricks go, pulling a rabbit out of a hat or that type of thing, not nearly, or Houdini magic escape is not nearly as impressive as getting off death row. One of the all-time great escape acts. Gravitica says yours and Damien's episodes on Midnight Gospel, I'm guessing. I keep scrolling. My scroll wheel keeps messing me up. On Midnight Gospel is what started me on my journey. Wonderful. Welcome. Welcome. It's fun here. All right. We're trying to make it more fun by kicking out all the negative elements. There's too many of them. Matt Zell, A Dark Song, 2016. Great magic film. Haven't seen that. I avoided it because it looked like they were trying to turn the Abramelin into a horror movie, which is really bad. There's been a trend in movies recently, particularly from A24, of putting occult movies out with occult elements that demonize it. Example, Hereditary, one of my least favorite movies, which puts a goetic demon in there and makes it as evil as possible. Very irresponsible. A Dark Song, I haven't seen it, but it seemed to be turning Abramelin, a beautiful and one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful and holy ritual in all of magic, and most important, into like some type of horror movie. I would not want that karma. That's some literal, if that's what it is, that's some literal straight up demiurge arc and shit. Alex says Thomas is recommending, I don't know what in context, Thomas Carlson, Kabbalah, Qliphoth, and Goetic Magic. Yeah, Thomas Carlson, respect his academic achievements. Don't know about that much about him. Haven't read his stuff. Seems a little edgelordy. I think that my take on Kabbalah I love. My take on Qliphoth and Goetia is you will be pushed to do your own shadow work by ascending towards the light on its own. Trying to improve your life will bring out your shadow. And then you can deal with it. You don't need to go seek it on its own. That's my opinion. Gravitica says, I still pick up high magic just to be inspired every now and then. Awesome. Lucas says, I watched A Dark Song, but it was only half good in my opinion. Something else. Alex says, oh, I know, bro. I follow him too. Don't know who you mean. Wingsbound says, Randy from Lamb of God. The secret chief of the order just walked in. Come here, Charlie. Come here. Charlie the dog likes throwing open doors dramatically and just appearing. Oh, he left again. He's not interested. Okay. Alex says, fuck yeah, bro. Pearl Jam lead singer, Black Flag lead singer, Peter Jackson pledged support for Damien, but that also feeds into like this weird feeling that the Illuminati got him off. Yeah, people are very superstitious. That's not, yeah. But that is where conspiracy brain tends to jump. Conspiracy mentality has an answer for everything. You can see that on display in the Israel-Palestine thing. You can see people's cognitive dissonance in real time. It's amazing. Anything that anyways, I don't want to get off on that tangent. But you're right, that is where the conspiracy brain tends to jump. Josh says, Jason, you're amazing. Thank you. Just as well, you're the most solid and have changed my life and given me many tools I can't explain. You don't have to read or acknowledge, but thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. That's why I do this. So it means more than you know. Thank you. I get a lot of negativity online, so I live for comments like that. That's not me fishing for comments. Recuerda says, what exercises are recommended to practice magic with aphantasia? All the Kabbalah Golden Dawn elements require visuals. How can I do it? I got a direct answer for you. Image streaming. Look up image streaming. And if anyone on this channel has any difficulties with visualization, look up image streaming. It's basically, you can read about it more online, but essentially what it is using your voice to narrate what you're seeing as you see it and it is incredibly effective at opening up visualization abilities. So image streaming, look that up. We're going to be talking about that in Adept 2, by the way, which starts on March 1st. There's still tickets available, adept.magic.me. The first one was great. The second one's going to be even better. Paul says, I feel the scary South shit. I was a goth in Alabama in the 90s. Damn, respect, because I'm guessing that being a goth in Alabama in the 90s was like, you could get killed for it. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the sense that I get from talking to people. And now that I live south adjacent, let's see, I don't know how South Texas is, but now that I spend a lot more time in the South, first of all, I love the South. It's beautiful, it's goth, it's gorgeous. The Southern Gothic thing is real. It's a great vibe. When it's not cold as shit out like today, which it usually isn't, the weather is great, or as long as there's no hurricanes. I really love the South, but yeah, the legacy of slavery is palpable here. For instance, Texas, you know that, let me drop some occult knowledge on you. You know that little strip above Texas that has Oklahoma, where it's like, why is there this tiny strip above Texas? It's like a weird sigil in the middle of the map of America. Why is there one little line in the map of America? That's the part of Texas that Texas gave up after the Civil War or excuse me, not after the Civil War. That's the part of the well, I can't remember when, but that's the part of the territory that Texas gave up in order to remain a slave state. That little line right in the middle of the map. It's like the karmic original sin on display in America. So yeah, the South, the legacy of like slavery is real here. It's not this, grad school abstraction language game that people have turned racism into. It's like, no, like literally people were put in chains here. People still get dragged behind trucks. Like, yeah. So it's scary. Alex says, my local Masonic lodge is nothing more than a wife sharing guild. Well, you should report them to, I don't know where you are, but we should report them to the whatever southern or northern jurisdiction, because that's very bad practice. And that is not what Masonry should be. And they should be reported and put on notice. And I'm happy to do, and as a representative of the craft, I'm happy to do that. Okay. Synchronicity from Black 2023, but it's worse than a dark song. I don't know that one either. Desert Dweller says, recently heard some fundamentalist family friends ramble about familiar Masonic curses recently. Definitely a popular belief in that Christian community. Yeah, it's amazing, like, just the lengths to which some, and by the way, it's not just Christians, it's also Muslims, but it's amazing the extent to which certain religious groups will blame all of their issues on other groups. And that could be, in the case of Muslims all over the world, it's the Jews, it's the Zionists, it's Israel. If somebody stubs their toe, it's the Jews did it. I'm not even, you think I'm exaggerating, I'm not. Read Ayaan Hirsi Ali's book, it's like, and that's not just Muslims, that was like Germany in the 1920s, right? It's crazy. It's like, there's I remember reading a story about there's a bad smell in a classroom, and the elementary school teacher opens the windows and says, oh, it was the Jewish smell came in, or something like that. People are crazy. So, or you see people in the Christian community saying everything's Satanists or Freemasons. It's like, who are you talking about? Like me, Mitch Horowitz? Like, come on. Like, it's like, come on. But, when you yourself or your group is failing and your strategies for life are maladaptive, let's put it that way, and they're not getting you anywhere, it's a lot easier to blame someone else for your problems than to ask yourself what you're doing wrong. Of course, only one of those is actually going to improve your life, but it's a lot harder than the other one. So the other one is much more popular. It was the Masons, it was the Jews, it was blah, 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 blah. So that's unfortunate. Lucas says, I didn't know Simon King, The Witches. Thanks. Yeah, check that out, everyone. If you want a realistic occult movie, Simon King of the Witches. It's great. It's so 60s. Dustin says, I tried getting into my local lodge, got my first degree, but I never felt like I fit in there. It was just a bunch of old Southern dudes, and I just didn't feel like I belonged there. Yeah, well, that's fair enough, right? I encourage you, if you are still interested in Masonry, if not, no problem. If you're still interested, I encourage you to go look at other lodges, because every lodge is its own culture. Like we just had somebody say there's like this wife swapping lodge. That's very poor rummy, and that's against the rules. Like, that's literally against the rules and needs to be. By the way, Masons take, what can I say? Let me just put it this way. Messing with other people's wives is expressly forbidden in no uncertain terms under penalty of Masonic trial. For doing things like that, you can be put on Masonic trial and exiled from the fraternity. Because they completely undermine. The whole point of Freemasonry is to get guys together and remove sexual jealousy from the equation. Right? So that type of behavior undermines the entire thing. And I would say they're not even doing it. So that should be reported. That's against the rules. And like I said, I'm happy to report it. It's not an idle thing. So, but if you just go to a lodge and you feel like you don't get in, that's totally normal. It's kind of like, shopping. It's not related, but it's like when you're shopping for therapists, you want to shop around. When you're looking at lodges, hopefully you live somewhere where you have more than one option. If you don't, it's unfortunate. And Masonry is dying, so a lot of the lodges are closing down. So shop around. That's all. And until you find a group that you vibe with. And also remember this, occult groups are not just about the people and whether you get along with them. It's also about what you bring. And the Masonic experience, even if you don't have anything in common with the people in the lodge, the Masonic experience is real. It's profound. So, all right. Gravitica says you'll be remembered. Thank you. You, Damien, and Mitch deserve to be remembered as the ones who kept this lineage sane in this era. I appreciate that. Thank you. JJ says, thanks, Jason. Your answer, Freemasonry is very helpful in healing. Yeah, there's no such thing as Masonic curses. There's not. If there were, I would know them and I would threaten people with them. For real, I would. But no, it doesn't exist. So hopefully that puts you at ease. Eddie says, I learned about Damien while I was fighting addiction. He inspired me to hold on during the bad times. That's wonderful. Yeah. Sometimes it's as simple as that, right? Because addictions are demons for real. Slim Jim says Hereditary was fucking scary. Yes, it was scary. It was well done. And it did a great disservice to the occult world by both glamorizing and overhyping Goetia. Reality says both those movies are amazing, though. Yeah, so the devil himself appears to you as an angel of light. They're great. Midsommar. It's another great movie. Same director. I actually like Midsommar a lot more, right? But that does something similar with the runes. Although I think it's more deserved in Midsommar's case because it's a commentary on white nationalism. And if you watch it like that, it's actually much funnier and actually more frightening because it's a lot more realistic than Hereditary. There are groups like that in Midsommar, right? So, did I see Nosferatu? Okay. I watched the first half of Nosferatu and, yeah, the latest one. And what are my thoughts on it? First of all, I love the original, and the original is interesting because the set design was done by Eugene Grosch, who was a member of the Fraternitas Saturni, which is is the premier occult group in Germany. Has been around for forever, and is still around. And he put a lot of real occult stuff into the movie, so that's interesting. It seems like they tried to replicate that with this one, and I only watched the first half, but all that I saw in terms of real occult stuff is at one point the Renfield character is doing some ritual to summon Dracula while standing in a Sigillum Dei Ameth. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. You could get that, like literally if you just searched occult symbol on Google Images, that's the first thing that came up. It has no relevance to anything in the occult. So if there's something more specific, maybe that happens later in the movie. I really, really love the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu with the Popolva soundtrack. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. The new one, this was my take on it so far. First of all, the voice of the vampire is pretty cheesy. It's like, maybe it'll grow on me like Bane's voice from Dark Knight Rises. But I feel like the new one just kind of made me stressed. And I think that my feeling about it was the original and the Werner Herzog Nosferatu are so successful because they established an incredible vibe. And that vibe is largely constructed through suggestion. the first Nosferatu, it's all this incredible German expressionist camera angles and shadow work and all of that. And it's just it's a gorgeous film. And so much is left to the imagination and shown in darkness, and is done as even the part where Nosferatu comes out from the tunnel the first time and he has his hands down and you can't really fully see him. And because it's in black and white, it's more like looking at occult symbols than individuals. And it's incredible, right? But I think in the new one, what they did is they spelled everything out. They had the special effects to depict everything. So nothing is left to the imagination. And as a result, and again, I didn't finish it, as a result, it's kind of like, it's just a movie, and it's a fun movie, all that, but it doesn't have that dreamlike quality that the original has, that Werner Herzog was able to make his own version of in the second one. So it's kind of like, it kind of gave me the feeling that a lot of movies do, like, for instance, The Batman, right? I'm a big Batman fan. I watched The Batman with Robert Pattinson, and I thought that was great. That was wonderful. That was incredibly well done. Everything was on point. The acting was all good. The special effects were good. The color grading was amazing. The soundtrack was good. The fight scenes, the gear, the casting, everything's good. And then, like, within 15 minutes, I couldn't remember anything about the movie because it's like junk food, right? It's like a solidly well done movie that, just like all Hollywood movies, flinches at the edge of actually taking any risks, and therefore is damned to mediocrity. And that's not the fault of the talent involved in it either. It's a fault of the studio system not willing to allow people that little extra leeway to do things that the public might not like. The Christopher Nolan movies, they let him kind of run wild with those. And we could talk about those forever from an esoteric viewpoint. I did a podcast with Mitch about it. But the new Batman, while it's technically amazing and is a great movie, and I recommend it, it's not like it's a bad movie. It's very entertaining. It just didn't leave me with anything, and I kind of felt the same way about Nosferatu. Let's see. Mark says, are we asking any kinds of questions here? What's the best way to change your consciousness? Chaos. Meditation. Des says, should I read Prometheus Rising or Cosmic Trigger in a certain order? Cosmic Trigger, then Prometheus Rising. Doesn't matter too much, though. Wingsbound says, 100% agree on not seeking the darker. The challenging in shadows will show itself if you're authentic and not repressing things, and it will help you along your spiral. Yeah, that's very well put. I mean, look, we live in a dark world, okay? Just turn on the news. We are confronted by tremendous darkness every day. As human beings, it seems to be part of human beings' function, by the way. Human beings seem to have to contend with these cosmic forces and make meaning out of them. And we live in a world of incredible darkness. You don't need to go seeking it out. In the 90s, people loved seeking this out because in the 90s, life was good. Remember movies from the 90s like American Beauty, where it's like, oh, my life is so meaningless. I live in the suburbs and everything's wonderful. Nothing means anything. It's like, now people are like, you bought a house? Like, what? So in the 90s, everything was so good for most people that they decided to go edgelord and try to fill in the blanks by looking for the bad stuff themselves, at least in America. Try telling that to people in Rwanda or Serbia, not exactly the same conditions. But, seeking out the darkness, don't worry. The darkness will find you. The darkness will find you all on its own. So let it do the work. Don't waste the effort. Scott says, do you think the Gnostic Sophia is synonymous with Babylon? Is Thunder Perfect Mind Babylon, Nuit speaking? Yes, I do. Alex says, thanks for keeping it a buck, Jay. What? Roman says, I'm having my first dinner with the Freemasons next week. Congratulations. So let them interview you. Interview them. If it's a good fit, it's great. If not, look for another lodge. It's your life. But congratulations on that. I'm actually quite surprised by how many young guys watch my videos then join Freemasonry. That's a good thing. I think Freemasonry can be an incredibly good influence on young people. Let me put it this way. The type of vitamins that young guys seek by watching, for instance, Jordan Peterson or Jocko or self-development content, alpha content online, that's a real need. Young men in particular, and men of all ages, need male guidance. They need someone to tell them how to be a man. And so Freemasonry will actually give you that, while all the stuff on YouTube will just show you the menu. You know, if you actually want those vitamins, Freemasonry can give you that. I'll leave it at that. Sending you love through the ether, bro. Love the occult videos and whatnot. Appreciate it. Love back. Masonic Hot Wife Club. Yeah, no. Sean says tomorrow's Jen's birthday. Yeah, wait. I think it's March 22nd. I could be wrong, but I think it's March 22nd. Any reflections? Does she feel close by? Are you in contact? What's the best Jen writing or book of interviews, etc.? Psychic Bible. Psychic Bible. Though says excellent book on Babylon, the Red God. Second that one, Red Goddess, Scarlet Imprint, Peter Gray. That's a great book. The Red Goddess, great book. Great, great, great. That's a book you can actually get a Gnostic feel off of. Highly recommend that. Wingsbound, derangement syndrome exists for so many people and ideas. Yeah. I hope our country outgrows this party system. Yeah, it's pretty tedious. The flip side is, there are working models around the world. Let's take a look at Israel, okay? So Israel has a system where as many parties as you want can be in it. And there's tons of parties in the Knesset. And so what that means in practice is, if you want to build, so everyone has to build a coalition of multiple parties to get into office. And so it's kind of chaos. And lots of people have ideas, for instance, about Netanyahu, including, for instance, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich in his current cabinet. So the other side is not necessarily better, is all I'm saying. I think there's a lot of chaos there. But yeah, in general, I will say this. It would be great if we had representational politics. Let's put it that way. It would be great if we had politics that actually represented people's needs. Ironically, I think that the Trump presidency, I don't want to get into trouble, like him or not, and there's lots of reasons not to, the Trump presidency feels like the first time that the executive branch has actually conformed with the desires of a lot of the people in the country. And it's absolutely a break from the stranglehold of the Bush and Clinton dynasties. And it's kind of striking from a historical perspective that whatever you think of Trump, whatever you think of RFK Jr., I'm not here to tell you what, because I'm sure everyone on this call has strong opinions one way or the other. Okay, so I'm not wading into that. I'm just not. But I will just say, as a matter of historical context, it's quite fascinating that Trump effectively ended the control of both the Bush and Clinton dynasties, because our country was controlled by political nepotism, political dynasties on the left and right, the Clintons on the left, of which the Obamas are an extension, and Biden. And, remember, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State under Obama, and the Bushes on the other side. And remember, before Trump ran in 2016, it was basically looking like a contest between Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. It's like business as usual for America. Not only did Trump effectively end both of those dynasties in a way that I don't think they can come back. What are they going to do? Front Chelsea Clinton? I don't think so. Run Jeb Bush again? I don't think so. Not only did he effectively end both of those political dynasties, he restored the prior dynasty to power, the Kennedys. Yes, he's not president, but he restored the Kennedys to the White House, and the Kennedys were the political dynasty that ran the country prior. That's pretty remarkable. Good or bad, it's for history to decide. But it's pretty remarkable from a historical standpoint. There have been, of course, conspiracy theories around both the Bush and Clinton families potentially being involved in the pushing out of the Kennedy family, shall we say. I don't know whether that's true or not. Hopefully, as more of the files come out, are released, we'll get to know more about the story there. But it's pretty remarkable when you look at it as this one guy ended two political dynasties, and of course, people are concerned he will replace it with his own. Whether that happens or not, he restored the prior one. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Recuerda says, thank you so much for all your work, Jason. You're welcome, from the courses, the Ultra Culture blog, and all the recommendations you have made over the years. The last one about the meditation bench was a complete game changer in my concentration practice. I truly thank you with all my heart, and we will continue practicing and sharing the tools here in the south of Latin America. Lots of love back. I really appreciate that comment. That's wonderful. It warms my heart. Great on the meditation bench too. I know those are great, right? I just found that at a bookstore. I've got one of mine back there. I found one of those at a bookstore in LA in like 2010, and it's worked ever since. That's so 15 years I've been using it. Those are great. They're great. Yeah. So for those who don't know, because they haven't taken Adept Initiative, check out Ananda Woodworking. I'll put a link on this after I get off the stream. Mark says, I lived right next to the Freemasons HQ here in London. Didn't get around to checking out though. Oh, recommend it. If you live next to a huge Masonic center, there's a great one in New York that's like 13 stories tall. It has like 13 lodges in it. It's wild. And one's like Egyptian themed. It's crazy. And you can go tour them as members of the public. So yeah, even if you're not interested in joining the Freemasons, it's worthwhile to go get a tour of a lodge. You'll learn something. Keeping the D and Kelly tradition alive. Yeah. Matt recommends The Other World, Richard Stanley, and The White Darkness about Voodoo. Okay, haven't seen either one. Interesting. Might check those out. Oh, Ninth Gate. Yeah, Ninth Grade is great. Ninth Gate, just a fun watch, even though it's a cult. Ninth Gate is a great occult movie. It was directed by Roman Polanski, another PDF file. So there's that. But I love that movie for the reason there's a character in it named Boris something or other, who's this antiquarian book collector who believes he's the only true occultist in the world. And there's a part where all these European magicians in black robes are doing some ridiculous group ceremony, like no, chanting to summon the devil, and he just bursts through in a suit, just like this kind of like middle-aged man in a suit, bursts through, goes up to the altar, says, mumbo jumbo, only I am worthy to be in touch with the Prince of Darkness, only I know the secrets of the grimoires. And then he scares all of them out of the room. It's great. Resurrection Magus, have you ever thought or felt someone curse to you? Oh, people have tried, absolutely, but here I am. So guess what? It doesn't work, and people who throw curses around are schizophrenic. No one's someone. The anti-Mason stuff is heavily tied with anti-Semitism. Absolutely. It's especially popular in traditional Catholic spaces. Also trad Orthodox. Yeah, no, thank you for pointing that out. That's completely on point. If you look at the whole view of anti-Semites is that Masonry is some way for Jews to control people. So again, what we're seeing here is, it's been predicted. Somebody, I forget who said it originally, but anti-Semitism is a predictor of a collapsing society. And one of the reasons is so you have to pinpoint, instead of pinpointing the source of the anti-Semitism, it's important to pinpoint the source of the collapse. So in America right now, we've been experiencing economic collapse up and down, and lots of instability stemming from the invasion of Iraq, in my opinion, and the mishandled response to 9/11. Our response to 9/11 should have been to go to Afghanistan, murder every single Al-Qaeda people with spec op guys, and flatten any bases we could find and come home. It should not have been to go invade Iraq and destroy it and turn it into a playground for ISIS. We should have gone to Afghanistan, and if we were going to go to a second place, it should have been Pakistan to find bin Laden. Then, not later. So, my 2 cents. I was never against the Afghanistan war, by the way. I was against the Iraq war very strongly, but I was never against the Afghanistan war. I thought that was totally justified even then. But anyways, so when you have a society that's failing, you have to look at pinpoint, why are they failing? Quite often, the answer is they believe religious nonsense. It's the same in the Islamic world. There's nothing in Islam that is real or true. It's superstitious nonsense. In many cases, particularly more fundamentalist groups, it's the same deal in Christianity. And so what you have is people following a set of instructions that doesn't work. Marxism is the same. Even Karl Marx, who was Jewish, was an anti-Semite. And here's somebody who spent his entire life losing and creating the religion of, how do I put it? The religion of resentment, to coin a phrase. Marxism, the religion of resentment. So when you have people following an ideology that doesn't work for them, again, instead of asking, but well, now they can't, and that's the problem too when it's groups. You can't ask whether the ideology is working or not because that violates the beliefs of the group. You think criticizing Coil to occult people is bad? Try renouncing Christianity in some fundamentalist group in the South, right? Good luck. So therefore, they just have to find an external scapegoat. And this is characteristic of all cults. And in the case, it's quite often the Jews or the Freemasons for whatever reason. And one of the reasons is that Jews and Freemasons are often, particularly Jews, are often very successful because they have values that work. You know, they emphasize education at a young age. They emphasize family ties. They emphasize community aid, all this stuff, morality, all this stuff that leads to, turns out if you have a 4,500 year tradition that's survived under persecution of every type imaginable, there's probably stuff that's working in there, and there's a lot, right? So same with Freemasons, tend to get their lives together and run things a bit better than people who don't have that structure. So that breeds resentment. All right. Virtual Reality says lodges everywhere where I'm from, North Wales. I reached out years ago. They got back to me, but I'm not sure what sort of commitments I'd have to make as I don't have much free time. So I don't know too much about I can't speak directly to the Masons in the UK because it's a different, I'm Southern jurisdiction. It's a different jurisdiction and they have slightly different rules. But in general, in America, it's the bare minimum is you go to a meeting once a month. You go to lodge once a month for the stated meeting for like 2 hours. It's not a big deal. Does Werner Herzog do Cameo requests? You mean the app Cameo? That'd be funny. Oh, I see. The occult stuff in the new Nosferatu is in the second half. Once Willem Dafoe shows up, it's where it feels more occulty. Okay. I got to the part where Willem Dafoe shows up. Did you see The Northman? No, I haven't. Amazing take on American Beauty. Thoughts on chaos magic? Great for its time. The internet is, everything that chaos magic was trying to do, the internet does better. So in a way, it's kind of a done deal. But go back and look on if you go back and look on this channel, and there's one, I do a video where I say the most important thing about chaos magic that everyone has forgotten is the idea of making your own system, making your own magical system. More people need to do that. Matt says but that's a great movie. I have seen that. Blueberry, 2004, a Western with plant magic. There's like a 10-minute ayahuasca trip in it. It's very well done. Michael says, do you have any strong opinions on Meister Eckhart? Strong? No, not really. I haven't read enough of his work. Never heard anything bad. Genesis would be 75 today. Is it today? I need to look up. Wait, hold on a second. You're right, February 22nd, 1950. So tomorrow would have been Jen's 75th birthday. Interesting. John says, in the supreme ritual of the hexagram, do you work with all the planetary forces at the same time using the elemental or macrocosmic? No, the supreme ritual of the hexagram is one planet at a time. And so it's not a general usage ritual. It's a ritual for doing specific things. Again, something we're going to be getting into in detail in Advent Initiative 2, which starts on March 1st. Now watch this golf swing. Josh says, I think Trump and Elon are great. I can't believe anyone who thinks different. Trump and Elon might not be the best, but goddamn, they're actually freaking doing something. SMH. Dan says, how is the Vajra typically used? You mean the Vajra implement from Vajrayana? I see complete. That's a bit out of my pay grade because I can give you a general answer, but since I'm not a Vajrayana specialist, I may not get it right. Best book on Freemasonry. The Craft and Its Symbols. Jessica Way, currently reading the book it's based on, Club Dumas. Interesting. Shannon says Ninth Gate is one of my favorite movies. Yep, I saw that in the theater. It's pretty good. Maverek says, is there a female equivalent to Freemasonry? Yeah, Matt says the Eastern Star Order. So there is a women's auxiliary in Freemasonry called the Order of the Eastern Star, which is its own thing, and actually has an averse pentagram as its symbol, which is really funny. So you see all these like Order of the Eastern Star groups with, you know, it's like middle-aged women, and they all have like ashtrays that have upside-down pentagrams on them. It's really funny. there are co-Masonic groups. So in a sense, the Golden Dawn is co-Masonry. The Golden Dawn came out of Freemasonry, as did the OTO, Continental Freemasonry, and were specifically meant to be co-Masonic orders, meaning they admit men and women. But there are not mainstream Masonic groups. There are not like official Freemasonic groups that admit women outside of the Eastern Order of the Eastern Star. And I don't necessarily have an issue with that because there are lots of women's magical groups that don't admit men. I think that women who have done women's magical practice in an all-female circle will tell you that it's a whole different vibe when there's not men there and it's just women on their own vibe together. It's a totally different, and not even just a magical group. You can just observe this socially. And it's the same with men, right? And the thing about the thing about men is when you remove, women don't get to experience this, right? When you remove women completely from the equation, for the most part, men stop competing with each other and just start nerding out about their weird little interests. And it's actually quite beautiful to watch. Resurrection Maggie says, I like that response. Last year I dealt with a lot of that. My son's family practiced Santeria and Palo were trying to curse me. Well, you know what? Fuck those guys too, because I publicly insulted and have at length, and will again on this channel, by the way, the entire Voodoo world, and here I am. So if curses were real, I would have been dead, but what are you going to do? Resurrection Maga says, I was scared AF at first, though I will say, well, yeah, I mean, see, here's the deal with curses. Curses are a psychological bluff. It's just like, oh, like you can imagine if I'm like, I have put a curse on you and your entire family, like that's pretty scary, right? But the reason that it works is because it makes you scared. And a lot of times when people are scared, they trip all over themselves. They get all goofy. But it's a bluff. That's all it is. What's my favorite Lynch movie? The Straight Story. But the silver lining was that pushed me really hard to keep up with Golden Dawn practices. Cool. A. Bannister, I'm lucky to join a lodge with like-minded brethren and a group college. Mathers, Woodman were back then. So SRIA. Formal esoteric training helps a lot. Thanks, Jason, for the guidance from the start. You're welcome. And it does help if you get the right group. Someone says chaos magic is really the best entry point. That's where the value is. Yeah, I agree with that. Desert Dweller, thoughts on combining AI and magic? Your thoughts on neurofeedback tech mixed with meditation help me a lot. Tech and magic go hand in hand. We're going to be talking about it a lot in Adept Initiative 2. I keep hyping it. Adept.magic.me, magick.me. The implications are tremendous, both for aiding in magical practice and for reality in general. And the implications will be unfolding for hundreds of years. There's a lot there. Quick advice for heartache. Is this breakup heartache? Depends on what type. Either or says, I live near a big Eastern Star building in DC and it looks mysterious as F from the outside. For years I didn't know what it was. Huh. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's basically like the ladies knitting club for Freemasonry. Ignite Payment says, if curses were real, I'd have been dead, but what you gonna do? Goddamn, how do you not love Jason Live? I appreciate that. Thank you. Tekken Magic? You mean the video game? What is that in response to? I appreciate that though. That's great. Yeah, these people are fucking idiots. The thing about curses is throwing out curses are the domain of the powerless. Right? If I get angry, I will sue somebody. Or, just there's all kinds of things, right? Curses are ridiculous. They're ridiculous. They don't work. They're not real. And all that they really do is demonstrate the mentality of the person. And that goes all the way from meh type shit online to full on summoning Goetia and all that voodoo and all that horse shit. All that it does is demonstrate the mentality of the person, right? If I'm in a fight with you, what do you think people are going to respect more? You fighting back and trying to punch me, or you running off to your room to go blah, 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 blah. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Get a life. Maybe they care on Reddit. That's it. A. Bannister, the pathwork to Yesod is amazing. I feel way more in control of my thoughts and impulses. So was that a specific tarot card working you did? Mordenerd says, let's say rejection, haha, should not have cast anything while going through the LBRP and MP. I'm not sure what that means. Oh, from the heartache. Okay, well, this sounds very complex, but in general, as a general principle in magic, if you're doing magic for love, which is a great use for it, by the way, love and relationships, you should always approach it. First of all, you should write down everything that you need, not want, need in a partnership. And then if you're going to do magic, you should ask the universe to bring you the person you need, not that you want, because what you actually need is not what the ego is attracted to necessarily, right? So you do magic for what you need. And that's the best way through. The best way through any heartache is to realize that if they're not in your life, they weren't meant to be. And that the person who is waiting for you. Simple wisdom from the Louvre. Chase says tech and magic. Oh, tech in magic. Okay. He said tech and magic, like tech in the arcade game. That's hilarious. Tech and magic. Well, look, technology, science, magic, these are all manifestations of the West Faustian spirit to understand and control more of reality. It's all the same thing. Alex says there's a good Peter J. Carroll book called Cyber Magic. Not sure what it pertains to, but someone just mentioned internet magic. That is a great book. It's not about technology at all. It's basically just Pete Carroll being spiteful, which I appreciate, actually. He's been spiteful to me too, but fair enough, you know. Brad says, hey man, I'm an EA entered apprentice from Phoenix, Arizona. Nice to meet you, brother. Congratulations. I love your videos and all your wisdom. Please keep making them and I will keep watching. You're welcome. So good luck on your Masonic career and your remaining degrees, and wishing you fraternal bliss and harmony. Thank you for your good comments. Romper Womb, Alan Moore was pretty brutal about the failings of chaos magic in his new book, lumping it in with New Age junk. What book is that? The bumper book? I haven't seen that. Alan Moore is another bitter and spiteful one. I certainly would not go so far as to say that chaos magic, I wouldn't slag off chaos magic at all. I just think that it reached let me put it this way, where chaos magic reached its actual potential was not in the public view. It was within occult groups. The public never saw chaos magic. I was lucky enough to, because I was part of those groups. But so, when people respond to chaos magic, they're largely responding to the online version, which is not chaos magic. But I haven't read his book, so I don't know. A. Bannister, Anya Sode, it was a contemplation work with study of this ninth sphere. Wonderful. Wonderful. Kabbalah is great. Would I ever have David Tibet on for a conversation? Sure, yeah, of course I would. Of course I would. Of course I would. Yeah, I don't know if he'd be up for it or not. Chase says, were you connected at all to Antero Ali? He has passed in the last year. Yeah, very sad. If you look on this YouTube, I'm not sure, but I believe I was the last person to interview him before he died, and we were lucky enough to have a YouTube of it. So check that out. Angel Tech, great book. Alex says, can you elaborate on the Pete being spiteful part? I just LMAO'd when you said that. Well, his official quote was after Generation Hex came out, and I've never met Pete Carroll, but he said, it's amazing what a sow's ear some people can make from the silk purse of new ideas. This isn't chaos magic, it's permanent derangement. I don't know if he talks like that, but I was just like, cool. Peter Carroll just said I'm permanently deranged. Fucking score. That's an awesome blurb. Thanks, Pete. M. Joseph, thank you so much for doing these videos. I've been blessed by you since the beginning of the pandemic. I appreciate it. Thank you. Ignite. Lots of Masons on this. Would I ever teach a love magic course? I don't know. That's a tricky one. I do teach about love and relationships in Adept Initiative and also Alchemy of Chaos, and we will be touching on it in Adept 2. And I talk about it a lot because it's just part of life, and magic is about constructing your life. Would I do a specific one? I don't know. Seems a little loaded. Resurrection magic, at any point of going through the elemental grades, did I get into martial arts? Yeah, I got really into Jeet Kune Do, Kali / Eskrima, and Silat from Indonesia. And I made more progress with the first two than the second, or the last, because Silat takes like 7 years to even get a certain handle on it. I've studied that. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to continue that since I left LA. They go well together, though, yeah, for sure. Alex says, I like that chaos magic places this nature of plasticity over all magical systems and just says, yeah, whatever works, works. You can float around with it. M. Joseph's also a Mason. Welcome, brothers. So, yeah, so chaos magic, let me put it this way. It's ongoing, right? The fundamental axioms of chaos magic are pretty good. And it just needs to continue. And it needs to update. And, you know, anyone who's using new technology, you know, is changing magic, right? So it should be ongoing, and its ideas should not be lost. And I don't agree with Alan Moore if he's saying it was all New Age stuff. That's not true at all. And I will say this: like, how do you know, Alan? Are you just being spiteful about? Maybe he may just be being spiteful about Grant Morrison with that comment, for all we know, because those two hate each other. They really do. So he may just be thinking of Grant Morrison when he's thinking of chaos magic. What are my thoughts on elemental tools? We talk about them in all the magic.me courses. They are part of a three-dimensional externalized mandala of the magician's psyche. That's my thought on them. Okay, how long have we been going? Are we aware of Liam Thomas Christopher? No, I am not. I don't know who that is. I think that's probably good. The comments are going for an hour and 20 minutes. The comments are petering out. Well, I'll leave you with this. That was a good session. I don't think we need to push it any further. I'll leave you with this. Adept Initiative 2 starts March 1st. In this, we're going to be exploring the entire tree of life and astral techniques and a lot divination and a lot more. You don't have to have taken Adept 1 in order to take it, but you should have. If you haven't taken it, which by the way is still available, you can go take that too. You should at least have an understanding of basic meditation, right? You should be able to focus your mind. If you can do that from other traditions or whatever, then you'll be fine with Adept 2. If you've never done any meditation practice, or your life is still chaotic and all over the place, or if you're having problems distinguishing fantasy from reality, probably Adept 2 is not for you. But if you already have a good sense of that, either from taking Adept 1 or from your own work, Adept 2, doors are wide open until March 1st, at which point they will be closed because then the course will be running. Adept.magic.me, adept.magick.me. Oh, final $2 super chat. Appreciate it, Desk. I'll just read the last comments before the super chat, and then we will be done. When I was a kid, I was drawn to the occult and magic. I was 13 when I bought the Llewellyn Ritual Magic book. And then in the pandemic, I took a whole bunch of your courses. Cool. That's fine. That's great. Is magic and manifestation much different? Well, they're just different aspects of the same thing. But magic is, of course, much more complex. It's more like a programming language. But manifestation is a good entry into it for sure. Your advice about taking Masonry as a sacred quest was also very helpful. I learned more and implemented a lot of the teachings by doing this. Great. Yeah, Masonry really is a you get what you give type of situation, because almost all the people in Masonry are not interested in the esoteric. But if you are interested in the esoteric and you go into it full force like that, interpreting the symbols for yourself, it will pay off. All right. Let's wrap up. Great questions. Thank you everyone for the nice compliments as well. I don't think we had any trolls, so thank you for that as well. Really appreciate you. I just want to remind everyone, there's not that many people out there doing this stuff. There really isn't. So you are very important. You are very special. Your work is important. And if you continue to do it sincerely and with a good heart, it will pay off. So keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. And we are all here to support you. And the great work will continue. And I will be causing lots more problems on social media soon, I'm sure. All right. Bye, everyone.